Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm your host, Rebecca Lauren. For today's stream, if you're watching the VOD, a little bit about me. I've been going through this like kind of 4.5 year life change, and I've been documenting the whole process. And that includes multiple things from my life. Maybe it doesn't make the best content, but I think it's great. I think it's great to document things and try to collect ideas and then bring that kind of thing into your life. So mostly I've been trying to think about, what do I actually enjoy and like why do I do it? And I do enjoy writing, but I'm trying to get out of this mindset of results and more into like a process of what do I actually enjoy about the writing process. And I do enjoy creating like different versions of techniques, like different things that I do to be able to come up with ideas and stuff like that. A lot of writing is done privately, especially if you're going to plan to publish it in a form where people will purchase it. That's actually really important. If you're going to self-publish, it doesn't particularly matter how you write it, especially if you're going to publish for free. And I think that like a good format for public writing is probably short stories that I want to publish on my blog, which has been something that I started like as like a small effort in the past. I kind of got started, but I kind of lose steam on things, and my goal is to kind of get myself back on track, get myself back into a workflow. And so today's stream, I kind of want to go through a process of just starting a new project. And I've done this before, but I want to set a goal to have a storyboard, to be able to have something that I'll actually be able to use for writing, to prompt myself to write, which is probably really boring to watch, but I'm going to document the process to kind of get the juices started. And I can bring the skills that I practice on these streams into my private writing to work on my novel. I've come up with a lot of different conventions over the years to help me organize my writing and to promote writing habits. So without further ado, let's jump on into my workflow, which I'm going to explain. To begin with, I will explain. All right, so here we have my note-taking using my tablet. Basically, I have a start point. Basically, I don't navigate traditionally using the window. I have predetermined little macros that I put on my tablet buttons. Basically, what it does is it allows me to just turn the pages. If you can see on the top left in the navigation panel, you can see that it makes the current layer invisible and it navigates to the next layer and makes that one visible. I have a button macro that will create a new window on above the current layer, so I can insert as needed new pages of notes. And I like this format because every single note will take place in a single screen without scrolling. And if I want to add subnotes, I can always add them later. Now here's the thing, is that I want to be able to create a storyboard, characters, and just be able to take notes. And then this is kind of like a scrap phase, plot, setting, and scene outline. And this is basically going to be how I take the notes. Storyboard and scene outline are similar probably, but this is more like, I guess, like coming up with notes and stuff. So basically I want to come up with characters first, usually, so I know like who I'm writing about. Usually what I'll do is I'll just start writing. So we move on over to my document format, which for now I'm just calling scrap, and I then use the year dash month dash day 3-letter day for documentation purposes. I then have the comments on the right side, and comments are something I'm only just now starting to use. So I have tested that these do transfer over between the Google document. I am saving directly to a folder that syncs with the Google Drive. And you have to just be careful to not update the comments too fast. Because what will happen if I do that is the document won't have time to sync. And I guess there has to be some kind of time, even when it's synced. I was trying to figure out how to do it immediately, to just save it in the document and then have it update in the Google document. The Google document will update it immediately. But if I make a comment on the Google document, make sure that before I update it on the LibreOffice document, that it has updated with the newest comments from the Google documents. So don't add new comments until it has been fully synced, because otherwise it probably will screw up and delete comments and stuff. I don't want to mess around with that. So basically I usually come up with scrap. This is stuff where I'm just like writing. It's pretty unformatted. I mean, like unorganized or disorganized. Usually scrap will be like random things that might not even have anything to do with the current project, but that I just happen to want to be writing down for some reason or another. That might be related to the project, might not be related to the project. Either way, it all falls down under scrap. Or deleted scenes, or basically like kind of like testing the waters kind of stuff. Like maybe I want to add a scene, but instead of adding it to the main document, which this section here, the writing, this is where I write the scenes in the Prosic form. So that's going to be the form that ultimately, I don't know why this is way over here. It's the form that ultimately ends up being, like the story or the novel. Yeah, I have no idea why these are the way they are. I don't know why these ones are so long. For example, yeah, I don't know why there's so many. Already having them. I thought I already fixed this. Oh well. So basically, the reason why I use this outline format, that's a heading that should not exist. Okay. Another heading that should not exist. Okay. Always put a new line in between just to make sure there's always space. Basically, what I'll do is I use the headings as a way to navigate. And what I'll do is plot. These are going to be like literally like, this is basically in the document format. Oops. In the document format, what I'll do is I'll, for example, Act 1, and that's heading 2. Oops. Yeah, heading 2. And why is it not updating why is it not updating? This is a problem. It wasn't doing this in earlier versions of LibreOffice. I don't know what's going on. I thought I had this all settled out. Okay, it'll add it if I do heading 1. If I do heading 2, go heading 3. This is messed up. I'm not sure why it's doing this. LibreOffice not showing new headings except heading 1. What is this going on? What's going on? What is it going on about with this? Document tab, chapters? What? You know what? Should I just use comments instead? Why is it not? Why is it not finalizing the comment? I guess I should just use only heading 1. And why did I use the number 1? Act. Is that how you spell act? What the fuck is wrong with me? Why does it look so weird? Okay. To me, like, it's sometimes like words that you like already know really well for some reason just don't. Why does it indent whenever sometimes? Jesus. I use 3-act format generally. I don't know if like 5-act format is particularly useful for organizing. I think 3-act is just fine. Okay, so trying to make a story, usually um oh, and I'm covering a lot of the document. What I need to do is change the format of these streams. Get on, Twice Slicer. You're so funny. I love how you just rolled with that meme. I love it. I love it. I need to change the format of these specific streams. Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. We're not doing Wrath of the Lich King right at this exact moment, so just remove that. You love the meme? Yeah. Okay, hopefully this is visible. Like... Wait, what's going on here? Oh, because I'm a... Yeah, I mean, that's pretty visible, I think, at least in full screen mode, I guess. I don't know. It is what it is. What about when I do paint tool? That probably is very visible if the other one is. Yeah, it's good enough. So what do I want to do? Oh yeah, I was writing. Usually I think of the first act as establishing status quo. What happened when I was doing? Oh fuck, I hate like completion, autocorrects and shit. Why is it doing like word completion suggestions? I hate that shit. Like, I just want it to be a typewriter. Like, is that so much to ask? Is it doing automatic spell checking? Is that what it is? Oh, fuck. What is this? What the fuck happened? Why is it popping up with like a random fucking thing that's like suggesting an autocomplete or something? Tools autocorrect. Yeah, fuck that. Jesus Christ. Why does everything want to do things for me? I fucking hate technology sometimes. It's like, why are people so fucking dumb? They can't fucking write their own language. It's ridiculous. It's so distracting. It's like things are like suggesting things to you, trying to inject itself into your brain. It's like the human brain is already designed to create things without fucking technology. I should explicitly rely on technology, not have it like automatically inject itself. I fucking hate that that is considered the default for every single application that exists today. It's ridiculous. Hey, Shogi. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Um, Just kind of frustrated sometimes when all morning I've been trying to get LibreOffice and like stuff set up with Google Docs, syncing between Google Docs is so fucking annoying. Yeah, I want to try to get into a habit of writing again. And so we're going to be able to, I have story ideas basically that don't really fit in a novel. And obviously I wouldn't be writing a novel on stream. But in order to write my novels, in order to write my stories, I have to have a habit. And so I just want to establish writing habits through my stream because streaming is really natural to me. And it's a workflow format that I've developed over the past like 4.5 years. And so we could write stuff for my my public writing for like my blog and stuff. Or for whatever, you know, I could probably join like writing subreddits and stuff. But I have to have finished stories to do that. Now I have like, I have like some ideas, but I kind of want to just get started with like kind of generic stuff that I basically, what I do is, there was a process that I think I need to apply to other things. I took a math class, one instructor I had, he basically it was an algebra class. Every time, hey Pietro, every time we had a new problem to solve, we'd always start out by defining the variables and including any relevant formulae formulae that would be used within the solving of that problem. Or, you know, usually you would do that at a new section because usually problems are organized in math tests and stuff by what you're going to be doing. But obviously, if it's a new problem, you start out by defining the variables. You know, first of all, if you know, you have to basically label every single thing, like, what is this problem trying to solve? Questions. What is the character doing? What are they searching for? That's usually what Act 1 is. The questions that I ask in Act 1 that the reader is also asking are, what is this character doing? What are they searching for? Is it inward or external? Internal or external? Which external is ultimately internal, because external questions, maybe the character is flawed. We are all flawed. So the character might be seeking an external question when the question is ultimately an internal one, and that may or may not be explored in the story. But if it's, I feel like compelling writing is really about finding out what drives us. My main purpose for writing is to find out the driving forces within each and every one of us. If we do this, we can answer the most important questions while setting aside the ones that are not as important. My belief is that everything we do stems from a core desire within ourselves. My characters may be on different stages of this journey, but they are all seeking these questions even if they are unaware of this. Learning how to do makeup, yeah, that's fun. I'm not really into makeup. I know a lot of people might be, women and also men. I'm really glad that men are starting to feel more comfortable exploring makeup and stuff, because men can be pretty too. And I feel like finding your own style is really important. Well, if you feel like you're self-conscious when you don't wear makeup, maybe just, however you feel is valid, There's no such thing as a healthier outlet or not. Makeup is your expression. You should try writing, definitely. And yeah, video game is a different kind of writing because you're using a different medium. Like, a lot of stuff is like universal between different mediums. But like how you tell a story in a video game is going to be very different than how you tell a story in a film, which is also going to be different than how you tell story in a film series or like a TV series, which is going to be very different from how you tell a story in a short story or a novel. And short stories and novels are extremely different. Short story has to be confined to a narrative that will fit the length. A novel has a lot more time, and just because it has more time doesn't mean that you can waste that time. And a short story, just because it's small, doesn't mean you have to compress it. I think there's a difference between compressing and effectively telling a story. Dialogue trees, it's all the same. I think trying to use a specific technique is the wrong way to go about it. Everyone has their own method of storyboarding and creating characters and stories. In the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the final product, and that's going to be open to interpretation of the reader or the viewer. And it's up to you as the creator to try to understand how people might interpret your work. That's really the job. It's not, you're expressing yourself, and that's always a thing. But just because you express yourself, people might interpret it differently than you intended. Obviously, sometimes the curtains are just blue. The old meme. Black Mirror Bandersnatch, I don't know what that is. Dialogue is actually extremely important no matter what narrative form you're using, but the matter of dialogue is going to have different expectations depending on the medium. So in a video game, dialogue, it depends on the style. A video game's more about the experience as a whole rather than just the cinematics. The cinematics might exist, but usually I think when video games are done well, it's completely different experience than watching a movie. You're trying to make the experience of somebody sitting down on their keyboard and mouse, or, if you're making a console game, you have to actually determine from the very beginning of a game creation, is this going to be done on the computer or on a mobile phone or on a game console? Because if you don't answer that question, you're just making a generic thing that might not translate depending on different forms. If you're making a mobile game, you have to understand the psychology of a mobile user. If you're making a Windows PC game or a browser game, even a browser game is going to be different mindset than somebody who's downloading a game on Steam. You have to understand, put yourself into the shoes of who is likely going to play your game. Like, is it going to be a person that plays Magic the Gathering that is most likely going to be interested in your game? Well, then you have to understand, like, what do Magic the Gathering players do on a daily basis? Like, what are the things that they tend to do? Like how do they work? And how can you add a video game into their workflow? Because it's going to be very different than somebody who plays chess or shogi. or it's going to be very different workflow than somebody who plays World of Warcraft, mostly. So you kind of have to, like with a video game, you have to think about these kind of things. Now with like a film, you have to put yourself in the mindset of somebody who goes to the movie theater or somebody who has a Netflix account. Is this going to be a Netflix film or is this going to be a theatrical film? If it's a theatrical film, you want to have the experience of somebody who's in the mindset of going downtown with maybe with their friends. They're probably getting snacks like popcorn or something. They're going to be sitting through things. There's going to be things outside of your control before the movie even airs. There's going to be ads. There's going to be movie trailers. And you have to fit your movie in that format. That the person is going to be prepped mentally by these things. That when that person sits down, they might be sitting down as soon as the movie starts, or they might be sitting down like 20 minutes before the movie starts. Somebody who sits down 20 minutes before the movie starts is going to have a very different experience than somebody who's rushing during the opening scene. And so, like, you know, you have to kind of think about these things. Like, most likely, most people are going to show up probably during the theatrical trailers. And they're not ready to watch the film yet because they're still in like, I need to get to my seat. I need to, like, you know, like these are the things that are going on in your head when you're out in public. First of all, you're thinking about things that are at home. Did I turn off the stove? All that kind of stuff. You know, like you're thinking about like, oh, did I pay for parking? You know, like how much is parking going to cost? You know, like you're thinking about these things. And and in order to enjoy the movie, you have to get those things subsided. Like you have to get those out of your head. And usually what happens is people sit down and you kind of take a deep breath usually, and like you kind of acclimate to the setting that is a movie theater. That's why they create the movie theaters the way they do with the mood lighting, and they have things like, people have figured this out for like decades, how to create the experience that'll be the most enjoyable for a moviegoer. Now with a Netflix film, you can't know that. Somebody might be watching Netflix while they're like doing computer programming. Somebody might be watching Netflix after they've been playing video games all day. And they're in their room, they're in their house. They haven't left. They're still in their computer environment. Or they might be on the couch watching on, you know, like you don't know what the experience is. So you basically have to treat it more like a novel, I think. I think that's why Netflix series are so different than film or TV series even. Obviously Netflix has TV series, but have you noticed that when you watch a TV series on Netflix, it's a very different experience than when you watched it live on TV? It's because when you're watching something live on TV, there's like a TV time. It's on the TV guide. It's almost like a theatrical release, because when you're watching you have to be there at a specific time. It's going to be live, and until TiVo and stuff, DVR, you had to actually watch through it, and you couldn't step away except for during commercials. It's a very different experience than a Netflix user. Netflix user is like, I want to watch this show. And then you just watch the show, and you can binge watch it all the way through if you wanted, or you can pause in the middle or whatever. The mindset of somebody watching Netflix is 100% different than the mindset of somebody going to the movie theater. And so when you're creating something for theatrical release, you have to be thinking of these things. Just like when you're creating a video game, the mindset of a video game player is extremely different than somebody watching Netflix or reading a book. I feel like novels and stories, people pick up a book and start reading, but they might be in their room. They might be on the bus. They might be they might be in like a reading nook or a library. You don't really know. So the book itself is supposed to give its, obviously always the work itself should speak for itself, and you shouldn't, it shouldn't be influenced by obviously in some formats you really do, especially live formats, you really want to make sure that the experience as a whole is under your control. And you could do that with live events. Like, people buy a ticket, they show up to a live event, you like have specific lighting, you have like speakers like playing sounds and stuff like that. Like maybe there's like some imagery involved. Like there's so many different things people can do creatively for live events where people have to actually physically be there, and the venue is yours to create as a canvas. It's not just about the movie. Maybe it's a movie, and before the movie you have people in cosplay and people are like doing like pretend sword fights and stuff. That's a very different experience than just going to a movie theater and watching a movie. Like if you prep people's mind before they watch it, it's 100% different experience than if they kind of just, like plopped down and started watching it on Netflix or something. Yeah, I think people design their projects as that entire experience because, as you said, like nowadays you can watch an entire season in a single weekend. So people will create their work with that in mind. So that therefore the entire work as a whole is fundamentally different than if you were sticking to the traditional sitcom format, for example. It's going to have a completely different vibe. In a sitcom format, you know that the viewer is going to, be distracted because they're watching TV at home. Maybe they have like, kids running around, or maybe they have to do dishes or something, or, they might have to go to the bathroom and they might miss part of the show. There's commercials, so you have to make sure that your acts are kind of blocked out by commercial breaks, that you can't just have something like abruptly stop. You have to actually have like a punctuation mark that completely sets your writing style separately from if you had a blank canvas. That's why I feel like Netflix and stuff, it's like writing a novel rather than writing a TV show. When you're writing a TV show like Seinfeld or something, you have a very specific format that matches the broadcast schedule. You have to know what show comes on before Seinfeld and what show comes on after Seinfeld. You're working with the network, hopefully, ideally, to know how they're curating your content. That may have been something that the writers had to think about. I guarantee it's something at least the producers had to think about. What is the network, NBC? What are they going to air before the show starts? What is going to be the mindset of the viewer before the show even starts? That if the viewer was watching the show that came before it, like, what mood are they going to be in? And so it's your job to know that, because it's like, and the network will really deal with this more than the show creators. That's why they have like slots. You know what I mean? Like they'll have like show slots. They don't want to show like two like completely opposing shows at this, like, back to back or whatever. They'll have like a lineup, right? There used to be TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. And stuff like that. They would have like a Friday night lineup. They would have a Tuesday night lineup, because they would understand the mindset of what people would be like on a Friday is very different than the mindset of what someone would be like on a Tuesday, which the vast majority of people work a 9 to 5. They come home from work and they turn on the TV. And I know some people can argue that that's a terrible way to live. It just is what it is. That's how, sometimes people just want to go to work and then come home and watch TV. It's fine. It's what they do. It might not be personally what they want to do. Maybe they have other ambitions, but, then you have to make changes to your lifestyle. But, that's not up to you. That's, your job is to create a work of art that some people might not consider to be art, but that's their opinion. It is art. Like Seinfeld is definitely art. But just as much as that's art, anything else that you might consider to be, garbage or whatever isn't really garbage. That's just an opinion. It's still an art form. But either way, the mindset of the network, but even then, the writers of the show ideally would be working with the network to understand that philosophy, that psychology of the viewer, so that before they even start filming, when they're still storyboarding the show, when they're still writing the actual script, they already have these questions in mind that they need to answer. They don't just go at it and then just throw it at the network and say, just publish it as is. It's like, yeah, maybe that'll work. But I feel like if you really want to be effective, you have to have all these questions that you need to answer. And hopefully you're working with people that can help answer those questions, to provide you data to answer those questions. So yeah, Act 1 is basically kind of establishing these questions. Act 2, I believe a well-executed Act 2 involves beginning the nitty-gritty answering of these questions established in Act 1. For example, a character who has established the question of how do I climb the ladder in the company I work for so I can live up to the expectations of my family. In Act 2, this character will begin the process of moving toward that goal. He may, I guess they may, yeah, because it can be he or she. They may end up in a series of trial and error actions that will result in either progress or digression. There, as a direct example, let's say that our character Chloe. It's a nice name. It's a random name. How are you doing today? Hey Joshua, we're just doing some random writing, storyboarding, etc. Has found herself assigned with a team. She has to find out what each team member's strengths and weaknesses are. Let's say that she works for a company that runs a social media platform. Her team is tasked with creating an entirely new API that can scale to millions of users. Because maybe it was a startup and now they're starting to get become like a big public company, like Fortune 500. So now she's tasked with this entirely new, for the company, it's an entirely new endeavor. Like now she needs to create an API that can scale to millions of users. She has very little previous work to rely on other than the deprecated code. So she can begin this task by attempting to make this task so the their very first attempt toward this goal will be directly related to the questions that she asked herself, that she is trying to answer either consciously or unconsciously. Every action she takes will move her toward the goal that she has set for herself. A character who has a different question will approach the problem from an entirely different angle. If the company assigned another employee Steven, or how about let's call him Lee, with no, I'm thinking of Tekken. Yeah, a company assigned another company, Lee, another employee, Lee, with the same exact task, so that the company can move omnidirectionally, or can have double the chances of meeting their deadline. And the company knows that both Chloe and Lee have entirely different ways of solving problems. Lee, since he hasn't been established as a point of view character, must be established off script by the author of the story. This character has his own set of conflict, his own set of questions established, or may be in the process of establishing these questions. If we were to put this in terms of a 3-act structure, Lee or any other character involved in the story will either be somewhere within Act 1, 2, or 3. If he were in Act 1, this is the moment where he is tested, or he was now faced with a new doorway to open in his life. He had a previous life established for himself, which would be considered an epilogue of his previous story, whatever that may have been. For example, getting the job in the first place would have been the climax to his Act 3. If now he is in a new status quo where he is now finding out his mettle, discovering what his new direction in life will be. Since Lee is in Act 1 of his story, and Chloe is in Act 2 of her story, their actions will take significantly different directions. Let's say Lee was in Act 3 of his story. This is the more established portion. Here, let's go and kind of define Act 3 now. This is the more established portion of a character's story. There is still progress to be made answering the questions established in Act 1, but now there is a clear escalation of the process, which may involve tough decisions to make and time-restricted events. Lee may be close. Okay. Lee may be close to achieving his goal, which is which we can say might be Lee wishes to establish a long-term career so he can care for his family. His entire future is determined by the outcome of this task set before him. he may end up losing his job entirely. If he doesn't perform, if he doesn't win in this task against Chloe. Chloe's task is to answer the question of how do I make a name for myself? Which in a lot of ways has the same exact actions that will be taken as Lee's. However, there are subtle differences that will be made apparent during the course of this of this storyline. Yeah, I'm liking this plot so far too. I think it's interesting. It's reminiscent of like a K-drama or something. Yeah, two competing employees in a social media company who are now the directors of two different entire divisions in a company. And it's like you have to determine where each character is. And this is going to be true for all characters, although some characters are not going to be as involved in the story. Such as you might have an intern. Why is fucking automatic spell checking on? There we go. I hate that shit. I hate autocorrect. I hate automatic spell checking. I hate grammar checks. It's so distracting. I know how to write, and if I make a mistake, I'll find it and fix it. Like a typewriter. Like it's an editable typewriter. Like I just want it to be a typewriter so I can type. That's the goal. Is just writing. I don't need it to have all these bells and whistles. So frustrating. Like writing isn't that complex. It's just words. Like if I want to like do something more freeform, I'll use a different tool like this one. So now we have characters. So now we have Chloe. Act 1. Establish her inner questions. Questions. Why am I in this company? What do I truly want in life? How can I make a name for myself? Whereas we have Lee, who has the question of how can I create long-term stability for my family? How can both I and Chloe achieve success? How can I win? Yeah, so Chloe wants to win, whereas Lee doesn't think of it that way. But they're both working together. Simultaneously, they have both different concepts of what's going on. Their versions of reality, they exist in the same exact reality, but their version of events is going to be interpreted very differently. Chloe's going to see things as a competition. Lee is going to see things as achieving goals. You know, he's thinking about his family. Maybe he's older. And, you know, so maybe challenges. So Lee, older. So he has to compete with much younger people in an industry that favors youth. Whereas Chloe, well, you know, woman in man's world, that's one. Younger, which has its challenges because she isn't always taken seriously. And people can argue all they want about like this being, you know, obviously critics are going to be like, woke, you know, woke or whatever they want to call it. But this is just reality. Like, this is something women actually deal with. Men deal with stuff like that too. But it's a very different kind of situation. I mean, it's just a reality. Women are not taken as seriously. Younger people aren't always taken as seriously. So she has to, that's kind of why she has to prove herself. Now, maybe Lee already proved himself, but now he's much older and he has to stay relevant in an industry that is going to favor people who are, more like, who are considered stereotypically to be more innovative. Just being younger doesn't make you necessarily more innovative, and being older doesn't make you less innovative. It's kind of ridiculous. Woke is a stupid critique. So you have to be able to establish this knowing that there's going to be people who critique this. Oh, why is the main character a woman? Well, why is the main character a man? It's like you can ask the same question. I think the best thing to do is to not take it seriously and just write a good story, obviously. But this is just a true challenge. Like these are the things that she's facing. She's younger. She also only recently joined the company. Whereas Lee has been with the company for a while. So, strengths or advantages. So with Lee, established, strong / reliable employee for many years. But only one person can come out of this. They have to downsize, right? They have to maximize profits. They can't have two people in the same position. This is a very specific position, and, it's like, maybe Lee could still stay with the company, but, we'll have to establish why the stakes are so high. That's a kind of, stakes. Establish why only one character can stay with the company. For example, why can't both stay? There's got to be a compelling reason. Like, there must be a reason why the company has to choose one or the other. But the thing is Chloe has accepted that. She's accepted that reality, whereas Lee wants to find a way that favors that works out for both of them, to kind of change the situation. They have both different kind of goals. Because maybe if he approaches it that way, he's more likely to succeed in his goal, which he wants to have an established, stable career. And if he wins, she wins. But if she wins, then he loses. And maybe he knows this. And maybe he wants to help her anyway, because she's younger. And maybe he sees himself, when he sees her, He sees a younger version of himself. Like Chloe had to rise, like she was like an intern, she struggled. She really had to fight for her right there. There's a lot of men who work in the company, and she, there's other women, but like, she's ambitious, and she's a type of person, and maybe I'm projecting my own qualities. I try to make characters that are different from me. But at the same time, obviously every character I make is going to have my qualities, at least in some part. One of my qualities I have is that I want to not just be different from other people, is I want to do things in an innovative way that people don't usually do, that I feel like people need to do. She sees the other people at them, the other interns, as kind of just flying under the radar, for example. And that's how, like, Lee will see himself in her because that's how he rose up in the company, for example. Ah, man. Yeah, I think this is enough for now. I'm going to take a bit of a break, and then we're going to get to some World of Warcraft later when I start the stream again. I like this story. I like where it's going. I like Chloe and I like Lee. They seem like very strong. You could see Lee as an antagonist. Because maybe he's not going to be a point of view character. He might actually be, though. Like, what if both of them are point of view characters and the reader has to decide who they're rooting for? That might be an interesting way to do the story. Where they both are very compelling characters, and it's almost like they're competing. It's almost like they're competing for who's the main character. Which matches the canon of the story itself. Like, the story itself is about that, and that would be an interesting way that would be an interesting way to flow through the story. What's going on here? Why is it not showing the... Why is it not showing the cam? What happened? What is going on? It's working here. Obviously, my audio is not matched. Yeah, good. Either way, I'm at the end of the stream for now. This is just like kind of a short stream to get me back in the habit of writing and working and thinking about writing. So Yeah, I'll see you later. We're going to play some World of Warcraft again, do some mining, but I'm going to do some reading. I've been reading Tolkien. I don't have no idea what the fuck happened with take off studio mode. Let's see if that works. What the fuck is going on? Oh, I accidentally turned off webcam. That's what's going on. Okay. Did I also do that here? Yeah, webcam folder. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on there. Wait, what? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was weird. That was really weird. Anyway, I hope you're having a good morning, and I'll see you later. We're going to play some more World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King later. But for now, just kind of go lie down and kind of process what we came up to, what I came up with today. I guess it's what we came up with. Yeah, process what we came up with today for the story. I think it's kind of interesting. This is different than my usual. Usually I kind of tend towards fantasy and sci-fi. Sometimes I do like more realistic story ideas, but I actually want to flesh this out and actually fleshlight. I actually want to flesh this light. I mean, I actually want to flesh this out and actually like write it, and we're gonna do that on stream. Establishing a workflow. I think using my stream can be a good vehicle, because otherwise I just don't establish habits. If I can, it'd be one thing to say, oh, I wish I could establish my writing habits, and then not actually do it. Or I can say, you know what? Let's do something on stream, which may not be ideal, but at least but at least I'm doing something. So, I think it'll be fun coming up with these stories. It's almost like it's collective storytelling, because it's not just me, it's also chat, whoever might be here, and who might have their insight into the ideas. So it's kind of like we're making this together. Obviously, mostly it's me, and I make all the executive decisions. But, hopefully we can make a full story, and we can put it on my blog and maybe post it on some subreddits. Who knows? Either way, I'll be back later. Yeah.